Well, I'm trying to get going in here, but I've got a studio full of a bunch of wine snobs and drunks, and I don't know what else is going on in here tonight, but it's, let's just say it's a zoo. And I'd like to talk, but Crystal's still here. Okay, first of all, the Madeira, just to carry on from the previous program. What do you call that previous program? Mike Rice and Eddie Lindahl screw up the Lewis and Logan show. Is that the name of it?
We're gonna call it, Michael.
You can clearly tell that we're approaching the holidays. I'm sitting here trying to do a program, and I got 16 people in the studio, and I'm drinking Madeira.
Hey,
it is. This is really good. Why don't you? Do you have 5 seconds?
yeah.
What, Crystal? No, I got her tomorrow. Why don't you tell everybody real quickly why we look at Madeira as a patriotic wine?
Okay, I think I can talk now.
We had a little panic there.
And Angie cut me off.
Oh.
Not from the wine, though.
Oh,
so,
okay.
No. So yes, Madeira. I love Madeira. The story behind Madeira is fabulous. In the 17th century, a Portuguese princess married into the English crown. One of the Charles, I don't remember which one, and he was really in debt, and so she wrote into her prenup, because prenups are not a new thing, they had them back then, so she wrote into her prenup that any Madeira, because she owned most of the island of Madeira, which is about 400 miles due west of Morocco, and it was where all the explorers would stop off at before they would head to the New World, and so she wrote in there that the English crown could not tax anything that came from Madeira. So you had John Hancock, flash forward to the 18th century, so we're talking 1770s, when things are starting to get a little bit feisty with the colonials and taxes. And so you had John Hancock, who the crown accused of smuggling. He actually would go to Madeira. He would load up his cargo holds with Madeira, and he would bring it back because it couldn't be taxed.
Right.
And so if you're familiar with the John Adams miniseries from HBO, there's the whole scene at the very first episode where the tax man is coming in and he's like, I'm seizing everything that's in your hold. And John Hancock is he's clearly upset. And so is the crowd, because you could not legally tax Madeira. And so it became known amongst patriots and as kind of a big, huge middle finger to George of, hey, you know what? Every time I go into my local drinking establishment, I'm going to order a glass of Madeira. I'm not going to order port. I'm not going to have, anything like that. I'm going to have Madeira, because that way King George isn't going to get my tax dollars.
And in fact, in the pubs, or the taverns, whatever we call them in the colonies, you could actually tell who were the patriots, the revolutionaries, versus those that were still loyal to the crown, based on what they were drinking.
Based on what they were drinking. In fact, the founding fathers, when they signed the Declaration of Independence, what did they toast it with? Madeira.
On the palate, made it even better for me. Do you think that's true or not true?
It's that whole placebo effect too. But you're kind of like, you're connecting with your heritage. You're connecting with that upstart kind of a patriotic feeling. I told my husband he doesn't like sweet wines. He doesn't like fortified wines. I was like, by God, we're 4th of July. We're having Madeira. And it's just one of those things that it just helps you kind of connect with your own heritage. And I love it. And I just think it's such a unique wine. And most people only associate Madeira with cooking Madeira, which is basically vinegar, and it's not drinkable.
Right.
So when you start discovering, the one I brought in tonight is a semi-sec, so it's half sweet and half dry, so it doesn't have a sickly sweet flavor to it.
I think that's why when I first sipped that, because this again is a wine that you truly do sip.
You do sip. It's very small amounts. It's not like you're pouring a full glass of this and then drinking it with dinner. This is a digestive. This is something you would have maybe at the end of a meal, maybe with a small bite, of chocolate or cheese or something as kind of your dessert.
Yeah. So the other thing I heard, because I was listening on the way in, the other thing I heard that you talk about that was fascinating, and we're going to talk about this again tomorrow too, because I think we're going to have you on the show tomorrow.
Tomorrow or Friday? I don't know.
Oh yeah, Friday. Yeah, Friday. Right, Friday. I'm sorry. I'm already ready for the holidays. So it's like, to me, tomorrow should be Friday. Was about when you don't know what to buy because you're going to a party, buy the region. Don't buy the label, because you're absolutely right in terms of marketing. I walk into some of the big liquor stores, and I look at the labels, and I think, you know what? You couldn't pay me to buy that wine.
And it is true. There are just certain wines that I look at, especially when I see them on a restaurant menu, and I just know, and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to spend that kind of money for a glass of that.
Right.
And it is all about marketing, and not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm glad that
we're a capitalist society. Go for it.
I had mentioned Yellowtail as one of the major producers coming out of Australia, and one of the smart things that they did before they ever introduced a single bottle of wine into this country is had distribution in all 50 states. And then they made a label that was simple and clean and didn't intimidate, and they just said, this is our wine. And it's a very inexpensive wine, and it's a great wine if that's where you're at. I just want you to come see me because I want to introduce you to some really good stuff.
I know, which you're very good at.
Thank you.
My two favorite regions, forgetting Europe, but in the U.S., Alexander Valley, Russian River.
Love Russian River.
Oh.
I love Healdsburg just in general. And then just the beauty and simplicity of Russian River when you're driving down that vineyard road, and it's a rolling road, 2-lane road, and it's just gorgeous. What I would call hills, they apparently call them mountains. I'm like, that's only like 300 feet.
That's a hill. We know a hill versus a mountain.
I can walk that, and that's 300 feet. But Russian River is just absolutely stunning, and it's what Napa was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's not overrun with tourists, and that's why I really, you can walk into a winery and not wait forever and have a reservation to go taste.
But do you think there's also, and again, I defer to your palate, but for me, the Russian River wines just have their I don't know what the right adjectives are, but you could almost give me anything from the Russian River, and I would be like, I like it.
And that's terroir, and terroir is all of those environments, the soil, the micro, but that's a freaking sensational red wine. That's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really good.
Difficult to get, but again, it goes back to just like with the Russian River Valley, there's something about the terroir, it's something about the grow region and how long they have with, you probably don't like those hotter region wines that have the higher alcohol content, more of the raisin component. You probably tend to like them a little cleaner and crisper.
Right, yes, that's exactly right. The other thing that you've taught me, and I know you got to get going, you got a trip to make back home, but the other thing that you taught me, and I want you to know I've taken this very seriously, is not being afraid to try new stuff. And the reason I was looking for my phone is because I've got a little app called
Vivino.
Yeah, Vivino, which I now take a picture of every label, not necessarily because I care about what Vivino says about the rating or anything else, but because I discovered that bottle, I like that wine, and I want a record of that. If I'm not taking the bottle home, if I'm in New York or someplace else, I want that label so I can go to my local shop and say, look, I want this.
Exactly.
I want this.
And that makes it so much easier on the other side of the conversation when you can show me exactly what it is you're talking about instead of.
Well, I was in this restaurant and
I had
on the Upper East Side, and it was red. And I don't know. Blah, blah, blah.
And this was the meal I had with it. That's the other thing I like about Vivino is I can actually write down. Oh, I had a red sauce with it was bolognese or whatever.
Right.
Whatever the meal is, because that also is going to affect how your palate is enjoying that particular wine, especially if you're doing it as part of a meal. Yeah. So that's really also very, very important.
Yeah. And I know this goes without stating, and then I'm going to let you go because I am going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you again on Friday. The other reason that I think that Lori Lynn and I have such a great time talking to you is I love talking to people who are passionate about what they do. And it comes across as I'm listening to the guys and you're talking to these two yahoos, which I love dearly, but you're talking to these two yahoos as I come in. It just comes across about how much you love what you're doing.
But everybody has to begin somewhere. So
of course.
And it's and I was that person too that I didn't realize I liked what I liked until I began tasting and I began experiencing it and stepping outside my own comfort zone and saying, you know what, I don't like red wine, but my husband does, so I'm going to learn to appreciate it.
Sure.
And it just.
But you took you took that interest and you turned it into a career.
I wouldn't call it a career. It's more of a in-depth hobby.
Yeah. Okay. A hobby that. All right, whatever you want to call it's fine with me, but you love it and you're doing it and you do it well.
Thank you.
I can't wait to talk to you again on Friday.
I look forward to it too. Thank you.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you so much.
Get out of here. That's what you call radio on the fly. When you walk in and you saw me desperately trying to get everything set up because I knew what time I had to go on air. And no, it wasn't you, because everybody was having a great time. And when everybody's having, well, how can you not have a great time? You came in, you had cheese, you got chocolates, you had wine. So,
I look forward to talking to you. Anything in particular you want to try on Friday?
No, whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. Oh yeah, it's a fantastic story. We need to start that whole movement again.
We do.
You know, if you want to be a real patriot, go out and buy some Madeira and serve it at a dinner party in your home and give the whole story.
It is, especially on the 4th of July. I will see you on Friday.
All right, be good. So anyway, long story short, you're actually listening to Michael Brown on KOA News Radio. Crystal is a sommelier, and she's very good at what she does. I love talking to her because I love talking to people that enjoy what they do. So here's what I want to do. I have to wait for Angie. I think maybe I can do this, but I'm scared to touch anything. What I want to do is, I actually came in here in a foul mood this evening. Traffic, and normally I've had to adjust my whole schedule since taking over this program. My schedule has changed because, as I said yesterday, I used to eat dinner after the program. I go home at 7, get home by 7:30 or so, and Tamara would have dinner, and we would eat then. Now I eat dinner before. Well, tonight what happened is Tamara had an appointment, so I was kind of left to graze for myself, and then instead of grazing for myself at home, I thought, well, I'm just going to leave the house at 5 o'clock, and I'm going to go find and have dinner somewhere. Angie, can you unlock the phone lines? Because I want to go ahead and get people to help me with a problem that I have. I need your help. 303-713-8585. I'm convinced. I have driven, I've driven in New York City, I've driven in Boston, I've driven in Rome, I've driven in Paris, I've driven in London, which is a challenge in and of itself. I've driven in Washington, D.C., obviously, and I've come to this conclusion. Colorado has the suckiest drivers in the entire world. California, you know, I rip on California all the time. California sucks for this reason and that reason, and I can give you like 55 reasons why California sucks. But I can say this about California. Maybe it's because of the volume of traffic, that if you're on the 10, you're on the 405, you're on the 5. I understand you can't move, and so you're driving along at 15, 20, and if you're lucky, if you're coming down the hill out of San Bernardino and you're coming into LA, you might pick up to 35 miles an hour. In Colorado, nobody knows how to drive. Here are my pet peeves. So the challenge tonight is, I want to hear your driver pet peeves. And here is my number one pet peeve. We have a law in Colorado. You can go to the Department of Public Safety, get over to the state troopers website, the Colorado State Patrol, and they will describe that we have a law in Colorado that the passing lane, the left lane, is for passing only. If you've ever driven on the Autobahn anywhere in Europe, you will see that people are constantly changing lanes because they're constantly passing and then moving back into the right lane. We actually have signs, slower traffic, keep right, or signs that say passing lane only. Nobody pays any attention to that. Nobody. And I don't know whether I'm as irritated at drivers as I am at the state troopers. I've never seen a state trooper, so this is totally anecdotal, but I've never seen a Colorado state trooper pull anybody over for just constantly driving in the left lane. And I get it. Before anybody calls in and everybody says, well, but Michael, during rush hour, there's so much volume that you just get stuck in the left lane, and you know what? No. Because I've been in traffic in these major cities when you really can't do much, and they still use the left lane for passing only. Let's go to Dave in Fort Collins. Dave, you're on with Michael Brown. What you got?
Oh, you just touched a nerve. I got so those left lane drivers, and I, like you, wish the Colorado State Patrol would really enforce what is now a law that says you can't just sit out there. You have to be passing. So, yeah, I-25, the traffic in this state, especially on that corridor, worst I've ever driven in anywhere, and I've driven a lot of places.
Yeah,
like
anywhere. And the other thing I find, and I didn't look it up tonight because it just hit me as I was coming in this evening, but when you go to the Department of Public Safety website and the Colorado State Patrol website, they actually go through and explain why that if everybody would obey that simple law of the left lane is for passing only, that traffic would actually move faster. And if you've ever driven on the Autobahn, you know that you can drive, 120 miles an hour on the Autobahn, and it's safer, and everybody's zipping in and out because what are they doing? They're using the left lane for passing only. Oh, it drives me nuts.
And one of the last things I posted on that page was, if you're going to do the speed limit, please do it in the right lane.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, Dave, a man after my own heart. You got it. A man after my own heart. I got to do this real quickly. Arthur, New Mexico. I don't have much time. What you got, Arthur?
Well, as a truck driver driving along, you see all kinds of. You talk.
Oh.
Is I wish that every driver that got a driver's license would have to ride with a trucker for 2 weeks.
No, you know what, Arthur? I think just one day in the cab of an 18-wheeler, and let them see some little compact car pull right in front of you as they're trying to merge or pull on or something else. Just let them look down on that car from your cab.
Yes. I guarantee you they would. It's just crazy out here. It is.
Okay,
and
but I do have a beef. I do have a beef, but I can't blame truckers. I blame the state of Colorado. I don't know whether this is true in New Mexico or not, but in a lot of places, truckers are forbidden from being